welcome to week 3 of the Oxrageous podcast. We are 2 weeks into the season and we're 2-0. And even though it wasn't the prettiest game we've ever seen, a win is a heck of a lot better than a loss. Just ask teams like Arkansas how they feel after last week. And I must say, I feel compelled to make a quick note here before we get on to our Gators about the Auburn Tigers. You know, I watched most of that game on Saturday, and as most of you know, it took a miracle overtime finish to beat FCS Jacksonville State. Isn't it amazing how different the Auburn Tigers look from last year? It's like they're a different team, and not in a good way. I mean, this is not a Gus Malzahn team that we're watching. And I think we all know what changed in the offseason. I mean, here we are, a major college football team fighting for its life against an FCS opponent. Where have we seen this before? What's the common denominator here? So I'm going to give the Auburn Tigers a little advice. If you happen to know anyone, the Auburn brass, forward them this video, because I'm going to go out of my way as a Gator fan and give them some good advice. One big superstition for sailors for centuries was the idea of having what they call a Jonah on board. Jonah meaning someone who's bad luck and puts the entire ship at risk of sinking. And to resolve the problem, often the Jonah was, well, you wanted to remove the Jonah as quick as possible. If that meant throwing the Jonah overboard, that's what you had to do to protect the rest of the ship. Will Muschamp is the Jonah of the Auburn program. If they don't act quickly, he is going to bring down that ship and everyone on it. Gus Malzahn and that entire coaching staff is in serious danger here, and I don't know if they realize it or not. They need to cut bait with Will Muschamp today. Not at the end of the season. Bring him into an office, cut bait, tell him he's fired, give him another huge buyout or whatever, tell him to hit the road. The man did something to anger the football gods, and he's poisoned right now. Everything he touches starts to rot away. So, Gus Malzahn, don't say that I didn't warn you. Okay. You certainly didn't tune on here to talk about Auburn. So, let's move on to Gator Chatter questions. We're just going to jump right in it. And naturally, 4 out of the 5 questions I received this week are about the quarterback situation. So, that's been a normal thing week to week, and we're still on it, so let's get started. Why do you think Mac is having such a hard time picking a starting quarterback? And that was asked by Rocket City Gator. Well, the quarterbacks don't seem to be making it easy on him. I think at this point, Mac has been waiting for someone to step up and run away with a job, and it just hasn't happened. Greer had the hot start against East Carolina. Looked like maybe he was running away with it. Of course, then he gets pulled out. And Harris comes in. After he came back into the game, Greer wasn't the same. He was a lot more erratic. Looked like he was rushing things. And so there's been a big debate this week on, is pulling a quarterback and rotating with another quarterback, does it really matter? Is it just an excuse? It's interesting. If you go on Google and Google rotating quarterbacks, you'll find dozens of instances, college and pro, about how much quarterbacks hate it. They hate to be rotated out of the game because it messes with their timing and their rhythm. After Greer had that hot start against East Carolina, Mac probably should have just let him in. He just should have just left him in, let him go as long as possible. But obviously everything was scripted, and he's still in evaluation mode. Harris is obviously a little less careless with the ball at this point, but I just don't think he has the upside of Harris, and that's the thinking, the general thinking in the fan base. Which leads me into the next questions. Do you believe the thinking behind wanting Treon to start so we can maybe safe play ourselves into wins is the same kind of thinking that led us stuck with Muschamp for way too long? That was asked by I Have No Friends. And a similar question, I'll answer them both at the same time. The East is weak this year. Harris can game manage us to Atlanta. Does Mac shoot for a winning season in Atlanta or go with the future but lose games with Greer and his learning curve? And Gator asked that one. These are really big questions, and the debate rages on. I mean, I know how I feel about it. After the last 4 years, I am done, completely done with the play it safe, play not to lose atmosphere of the Muschamp era. I don't know what Coach Mac's goals are this season exactly, but I'm pretty sure he's not expecting championships and crystal trophies. Do we really want to play conservative all year and hope we can eke out a win to Atlanta where we'll get our brains beat in? I mean, is that really going to accomplish anything for us this year? I think we need to be building for the future. If the coaching staff thinks Will Greer is the future, there's no reason not to be playing him most or all of this year. The question is, we don't know what they're thinking. Mac may not know what he's thinking. With a lot of play this year, Greer could enter next year head and shoulders ahead of where he is now. And you know, the guy has shown flashes of brilliance. It's not like we're going to be Vanderbilt, even with an erratic young freshman. Throw him in there, let him play. I love the upside he brings. Remember those years where we used to score 40 points every game? He's the kind of guy I could see leading us to that kind of offensive success again. Very exciting stuff. But you know, Coach Mac, he's the one working with these guys behind the scenes. He's the one practicing with these guys day in, day out. He knows a lot more than we do. And according to his comments today in his presser, it looks like the rotation is continuing on into the game this week against Kentucky, which is disappointing. I know it's disappointing for me as a fan. It's probably disappointing for him. I just hope it doesn't hurt us more than help us. And a lot of people have second-guessed Coach Mac on this rotation thing. We just need to pick a guy and go with it. Okay, next question. How long will it take Mac to change the selfishness still infecting our program? And that was asked by GMD Gator. Well, we know where this question came from. It all stems from Kelvin Taylor doing the throat slash after his touchdown, which set off quite a chain reaction. I don't think you need to break that down further than it was just dumb. I don't know what he was thinking or if he was thinking anything, because that gesture has been an automatic penalty for a number of years now. One thing Mac has talked about since day one that he was hired was wiping out stupid penalties, selfish penalties that hurt the team. It's obviously a big deal to him, and that's something that had been building. He had said that they had ticked him off earlier in the week on Monday by 30 or more guys not getting taped up properly. The guy's really big on attention to detail, and I think he was angry with the team all week long. Didn't like the way they prepared, and of course it showed during the game. So much sloppy play, silly penalties, and when Kelvin Taylor did his thing, Mac just lost it. It's like it was building, and boom, out it came. But watching it again, to me, it was more of a performance. It was great theater. I don't think it was completely a spur-of-the-moment eruption. I think he had said to himself, if this kind of situation happens, I'm going to have to show the team what is and is not acceptable in a very public manner. So I think part of it was calculated, because the meltdown was meant for the entire team, not just Kelvin Taylor. He wanted as many people to hear that as he possibly could. And the message came across clear that the selfish acts won't be tolerated. So he did come out today and said he felt bad about it, and I think he went over the line a bit, but I think he meant to go over the line a little. I don't think he would admit it now. But, you know, there's been a lot of hand-wringing over it and a lot of debate about it, especially coming off Muschamp, and they got tired of Muschamp yelling at everybody. But, you know, this is big boy football. It's not Pop Warner. It seems like we're getting more and more as a society where you can't yell at people even at football. If you can't yell at players in football, what's left? I mean, that is football to me. So I thought it was over the top, but I thought it was a little bit intentionally over the top. But it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Those thinking that it embarrassed the university, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the fans like it. Players may not like it as much. But I think the fans have always enjoyed the coaches going off. After that, Mac had a really tense press conference, too. Remember what I said about him a couple weeks ago? About what I like about him is he talks like a real person. It's not all coach speak. You're going to get some coach speak. But he's generally pretty open and honest as far as coaches go. After Meyer and Muschamp, the guy is completely different. And he was very open during that press conference. We'll see how the team responds to it. I mean, one thing I think I can safely say is we're not going to see the throat slash again this season. I also just heard today that Kelvin Taylor is not starting this week, so his punishment extended on beyond the butt chewing he got on the sideline. You do something like that, you're going to lose your spot. You got to earn it back. I think it's fantastic. This brings Cronkrite. I believe Cronkrite's getting the start, and there's been a lot of hype building on him. He's been getting a lot more playing time from Scarlett because, from what I read, Scarlett has some ball security issues. So this is a great opportunity for Cronkrite to literally take the ball and run with it. Looking forward to seeing what he can do with some more carries. Hopefully he can pass block. That might be more important than how he runs. Got to keep our quarterbacks upright. Okay, next question. Who do you think is going to develop into our best offensive threat this year? From what we've seen so far, I think it has to be between Goolsby, Robinson, and Powell. Swamped Gator asked that question. I think Robinson's going to be used more and more as the year goes to threat, as was expected. He's the kind of guy that he wasn't doing much. You kind of forgot about him. Then he got the ball in his hands. You realized how electric he was in space. But he's already gotten himself in Mac's doghouse. We don't even know for sure what he did, but he got demoted to a non-starter, and they asked him how he played at the press conference, and he did his job. That's all Mac said. He did his job, which isn't exactly a glowing endorsement. I think he's definitely still a little bit mad at Robinson. One thing I noticed, everybody notices, Robinson is a big-time hot dog, catching the ball, always standing over the guys, taunting them. Did anyone notice in that game he got hit late twice by ECU defenders? And whenever I see that, I say to myself, there's a guy that's out there running his mouth and talking some smack. The defense tends to play to the echo of the whistle for those guys. So let's just hope it doesn't develop into a make a great catch and then get a stupid penalty, stupid taunting penalty kind of thing. That is a fear for a lot of people. But he's too good to ignore. He's too good. I think he could really if he grows up a little, he's easily our best threat on offense. I already talked about Goolsby several times this year. He had 94 yards against East Carolina, and him and Will Greer seem to have a really good chemistry. I think they could be hell of a tandem in the future, because the defense, they forget about Goolsby. He sneaks around out there, and he's much better after the catch than you'd expect. Deceptive speed for that guy. Next question. After such sloppy play this last game, and Kentucky beating South Carolina on the road, is the streak in trouble? Care of Gator. Well, you knew you were going to be asked this. We're finally on to SEC play with Kentucky. Here's Kentucky, a team that's out for revenge. You know, they feel like they won last year, that they got screwed because we had a delay of game or whatever it was and it wasn't called. It is pretty amazing that Kentucky hasn't beaten Florida in the entire lifetimes of anyone on the roster. The last time it happened, the Cold War was still going strong, and Ronald Reagan was walking America's sideline. That's a long time ago. I mean, you figure the streak has to end sometime. It has to end sometime. I moved to Gainesville as a 13-year-old in 1989, which is when I started following the Gators. So in my whole lifetime following this team, we've never lost to Kentucky. I don't know what it's like. I've never experienced it. It's difficult for me to imagine. I think it's safe to say, though, that Florida's going to come out more focused this week. How could they not? it's also good to keep in mind that this same Kentucky team struggled just 2 weeks ago on their home field against Louisiana Lafayette, gave up 33 points and had to go ahead in the last minute of the game. These guys are not world beaters, and they're just Kentucky. I just can't get nervous about playing Kentucky. The day I'm shaking and nervous about heading into that dump of a stadium is the day I turn in my Gator card. It's Kentucky. It's a shame we're even talking about Kentucky. I'm not looking forward to the rotation stuff again. I don't know who will start. I don't know if it matters at this point. All I hope is that whoever's in, if they get a hot hand, Mac leaves them in. Leaves them in, lets them run with it. But in short, we're going to beat Kentucky this week. I can't imagine predicting otherwise at this point in my life. Okay. That covers all my questions this week. Nice brief week. Again, I'm happy to start SEC play. Get the patsies out of the way. Thank you very much for listening. If you like these podcasts, be sure to subscribe on YouTube or download the free app Stitcher, which will automatically download the podcast to your phone. At Gator Chatter, we continue to have the best Gator material on the web. You will not find a more passionate group of fans. They have been debating everything under the sun since that game on Saturday. Just go to our homepage and you'll see conversations that you never dreamed of when it comes to the Gators. We do not miss a trick on GatorChatter.com. So if you're one of these people that lurks, likes to read, but doesn't like to get involved, why don't you join us? Register, sign up a name, jump in the middle of the conversation, tell us what you think. These Gators are just going to keep getting better. A lot of the expectations, which were higher after week one, I think they've crashed. I think people have gone over the top, now turning the expectations down. It was a bad game. It was a sloppy game. We did win. This Florida team, though, still has a lot of talent. And unlike last year, we're utilizing a lot of that talent, and we're going to continue getting better. We got some guys come off injuries. We didn't have probably our best player in Hargraves last week. People don't even talk about that. This Gator team, I said it before, I still believe it. They can win the East. So let's just keep our eye on the prize there. Future is bright for the Florida Gators. Okay, great. Think we're done here. Everyone have a fantastic week, and go Gators.